All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:31 or whatever it is. We've got a quorum,
7:31.
we can tell. The meeting's being recorded, so be cautious of what you say or do. We haven't had in-person meetings, so there's nothing other than you're being recorded that we need to tell people as opposed to what we used to do. You do them all the time. Minutes of January 16th. Have people had a chance to reflect on those?
They were wonderful.
Do we have a motion
I move that we approve the minutes.
and a second?
Second?
Any additions or corrections?
I wasn't at it, I don't think so. I
Everybody's
can't vote.
everybody's happy. You can vote on minutes regardless. Yep.
Okay, fine.
In fact, if no one has any objections or corrections, I'll declare that they're accepted without even a vote, because we can do that too. And I'm practicing.
You're really enjoying
No,
that.
he
Well,
really
I've
is.
told you why. I mean, you get a Zoom meeting with 50 people and they do a roll call on the minutes, and you're thinking, what are we doing? So anyway, the minutes have been approved. And at 7:35, which is still a minute or two away, we'll jump into a presentation on South Commons Field. I don't have any updates other than, now that'll be included in some other stuff, so I don't have any updates.
You could do member updates if there's any.
We got 3 minutes. Do we have any member updates?
Robin filed the grant last night.
Oh,
The
good.
grant application.
Good.
And we got a letter of
Acknowledgement?
support from the select board
Oh, good.
for the grant application. And that's it.
And that's for all the way to, through West
It's,
Street?
well, it's for the feasibility study.
Yeah, but
but-
it's both,
The feasibility study will look at the trail in 2 phases. So
Up to
from
Coburn.
Hudson to Coburn, and then from
Coburn.
Coburn to Clinton.
yeah. So you're doing the whole thing?
Yeah. We might as well. If we're paying somebody to do some of it, we might as well do all of it.
Okay.
Good.
But it will be in two bites.
Any other member updates?
No updates, but I have Ennis cookies.
Thank you very much.
I know, I saw those.
I think there's not much movement on the Bullet House right now. We're still waiting for the septic system plan to be,
Yeah, he's drawing that up.
I don't know that he's drawing it up, he's drawing it up, but he has to submit it to the Board of Health and get it
Yeah.
approved. And Paul Wheeler said he didn't want to do any digging until the ground is thawed again in the spring, so there really isn't any rush.
Yeah, that
And
may
I
be
think they
next
don't want to
week.
do any
I
of the
know,
other
right?
work until they get the septic system done, because they have to do some topographical
Yeah.
reviews and,
Plus, you're gonna work on the whole network of activity that's going on with the town hall and drainage and all
Yeah.
that as part of, You're gonna use some ARPA money for that?
that's what has been proposed,
Yeah.
to finish up the accessibility parking for the old town hall, and use that in conjunction with the Bullet House, moving out the parking lot
Yep.
a little bit further so there's room for people to turn around, and I think they're looking for 5 spaces up there.
And then they've applied for Complete Streets money that would enhance the accessibility with sidewalks and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's been some discussion about that, but I haven't heard an update. We have a meeting in 2
The application
weeks.
went in, I think, but I don't think they've heard back yet, so. Anyway.
I think they'd like to have the sidewalk continue from the old town hall around the corner down to the crosswalk,
Yeah.
which would mean putting sidewalk in front of the Bullet House. And
Yeah, because the crosswalk that leads to nowhere from the graveyard to the Bullet House.
yeah, and then it just ends.
Right, yeah. Hello. All right, so we're done with member updates. Super, and it's time. So, gentlemen, you've been doing a lot of homework. It looks good.
Yes.
Tell us what you've learned and share with us your
All right. So
your new thoughts.
I guess in general, kind of what we came out of the last meeting with is we needed more detailed numbers for you guys, first of all, and just probably have our head wrapped in more detail around the plan of action if we do the project. We were able to get most of those numbers. I'm still working on a couple things, but the big chunk of it I was able to get taken care of. Going through the pamphlet that I have here, we can fast forward past the first 3 or 4 pages, I guess, because that's all redundant stuff that you guys have listened to us go through multiple times. But one thing I added to the pack is just the current field layout, which is basically controlled by the topography down there, and that's pretty much the only way we can get the fields that we do have now laid out.
This is the third one.
There's really no other way to put the fields because there'd be huge, drops and hills in the middle of them otherwise. And then the page after that, the proposed field layout example. Well, I know it's not a, set in stone. It's nothing. They're a little crammed in there a little bit. It's just to kind of give an idea of like how many more fields we actually could have if the fields were actually flat. So again, I realize that they're fairly tight in there and stuff, and that's not going to be a long-term final plan. But maybe there might be one field that is lost when there's an actual plan put together. But regardless, there's room for 2 to 3 more fields down there for sure once the fields are flattened.
And it just kind of shows how we can move them around from season to season and let them rest as well.
Yeah. And then, again, we're going to be working with the rec department on a master plan for that whole area and try and make sure that the way that everything is designed is done in a sensible fashion, which I actually have a background in landscape architecture, so I'm sure I'll be helping them out with that a fair bit.
Just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The pavilion,
Yes.
how would that impact?
So,
I
what-
assume it is planned to go about where that first 3rd and 4th grade field is. Is that true?
I am under the assumption, which again, I don't have that answer. Last time I talked to them, I'm not even 100% sure they had that answer. You went to that rec meeting, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they 100% had an answer.
But it's
'cause
going on this side.
It is going on this
Okay.
side.
I think it's going to take that 1-2 field.
But in relation, that 1-2 field is a lot bigger than the pavilion is going to be.
Oh.
So
The one closer, kind of in between the playground and the baseball diamond.
I think it's going to end up
Okay.
being between the playground
I think
and the
that's
baseball
great
diamond. Yeah.
location, yes.
So.
Okay, just,
That's where I would recommend putting it. But I think since they originally were talking about putting it over by the pond, and now it's being moved over to here, they're still in the process of going through that.
right.
So moving on from there, there was some movement on the numbers after we got the engineering and stuff and got harder numbers from people with prevailing wage accounted for. I do have the engineering plans for the sprinkler systems, if you guys want copies of those.
Yeah.
Again, I printed out 5 copies, so.
I think we can share.
Speak for yourself.
I don't need a copy myself.
I do not have plenty of contemporary power to speak to you, Eloise.
I'll share.
I'm so
Yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah,
we're fine.
I have another copy.
all right.
I'm not going to really go through the engineering plans too much, but
That's all.
when they engineered it in 2 phases, one being the front field, one being the rear field. It's labeled on the plans as so, and where the line between the 2 phases would be. But again, just so you have it to reference, there's obviously a lot of heads there. There may not be a need to be doing everything that is in this engineered plan. But for now, this is what they'd come up with.
It's part of phase 2.
They definitely have a lot of
This field goes further.
heads in and around the baseball fields and different areas to make sure that there's coverage everywhere. So this this plan definitely covers the entire area with adequate water coverage.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Tim, do you think they'll ever bring Keys Road through?
So is that this?
You know what Keys
No,
Road is?
Keys would be
I do
over.
not, no.
Keys would be more over here.
More where the
I mean,
house blew up.
if they did, it
Oh,
wouldn't.
yeah.
That's corner
If-
of Keys
if-
Road.
if they-
Oh, yeah.
If they did, it
Okay,
wouldn't.
There was talk about.
Yeah, if they did, it wouldn't
Extending it
impact
through.
any
Huh?
of, if they did, it wouldn't impact any of these. It's over this way.
Oh, okay.
It's surprising how, you know, if you stand in the parking lot of the school and you look, it's over in that neck of the woods,
Yeah.
not over in here, so.
It
Where's
looks like
Keys
it
Road?
Go up to the back.
Keys
of the
Road is
school.
on Pleasant Street, and it's a
Oh, I
dead
just
end,
didn't want it to
but
be
there
right
was
down.
Oh, is that
been
Plymouth?
conversation
Yeah,
about
to tear,
cutting
put a
through
see
and
the irrigation and have to
making
tear it out.
access,
Yeah.
so you could go to Pleasant
Oh,
from the school
expensive.
as well as south, so you wouldn't end up as much
But yeah, that's over
traffic.
here, so
you know,
that doesn't matter anyway.
How, does the right-of-way go all the way across, though?
I think
No,
you can
this-
see it
I mean,
in
it's-
here,
It's the school.
because I think, isn't this Keys Road?
Yeah,
here?
that's Keys over
So
there.
it's kind of coming into the back of the school.
Yeah, so it's out of the line of all this stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the engineering was done. The sprinkler company that I've been dealing with put together a quote accounting for prevailing wage based off of this engineering. Again, I have copies of that for you guys if you would like that. Again, he did it by the two phases, the front fields and the rear fields.
Is that Edgar Marchand?
Excuse me?
Who did?
It's Mitchell Land and Labor.
Oh,
So there's a copy of that.
No, it's 2 pages.
Yeah, so there's two quotes. One
Okay.
for the front area, one for the back area.
Give that to her?
Yep.
Maybe give it to him.
Yeah, so 74 and 100. Right.
Oh, yes.
250.
Sorry.
No, no.
50,000.
So that number went up a bit. So the turf improvement, I have gotten, so if we go down the current plan total cost. So the first number was turf improvement. I did get a revised quote back from him with prevailing wages accounted for, which that number is still good. I do have it separated on there by the front field and the rear field. And then I left a little bit of cushion in there in case they need to bring in more dirt than they accounted for or anything like that. But we had estimated 50,000 and they're still at about 39,000. So again, I just left that number as is in case they need more dirt and there's, again, it's accounted for.
Soil.
Yeah, more soil.
Yeah.
Yep. Installation of wells for the irrigation system. I talked to New England, is it New England Wells or some, I think that might be the name of the company. That was one of the numbers that I wasn't able to get a concrete number from yet. He sent me a number for the well itself. From my discussions with them and the irrigation company, it sounds like a variable frequency drive pump would be the better option for a project like this as opposed to a submersible
Right.
pump, which is more likely to burn out with the use for the irrigation system. But again, he wasn't able to turn around those numbers for me by the time I got this back and all that. So, but from a previous quote that he had given me for another project, and the quote that he had given me for the well, I think that we're pretty good with that $50,000 number. That is also accounting for quite possibly 2 wells, depending on how much water they get out of the first one. Because again, I'm trying to just be conservative and, think worst case scenario. Because I don't want to just assume 1 pump or 1 well and not be able to get enough water out of that 1 well to satisfy the requirements of the system. They do have play. They do have the ability to manipulate the system and have less heads on at the same time and add more zones, depending on how much water they get out of the well. But again, I'm trying to approach this with a conservative way. With the variable frequency drive pump, there would need to be a shed for the pump equipment, so I added a number in there for that. Then the irrigation system, those numbers are in there. Again, I separated that by front fields and rear fields. Additional field requirements is just the nets, which we talked to the Conservation Commission regarding those. Not sure if that was before or after we talked to you guys last, but
It was before.
was it before? All right, so we've gone over that. So there's not really any bird-friendly netting, but they'll be able to get brought in when they're not being used and not be just spread across the field at all time. So that totals up to, before it was more around along 260
Right.
for the project, and now it's more like 294 after I've gotten these numbers back. On the next page, I did break it out by phases. So turf improvement cost. So basically, phase 1, in my eyes, that makes the most sense, would be the front fields first, installing the wells for the irrigation system, installing the irrigation in the front fields, and repairing the front fields and flattening the front fields. So that cost is in total $188,000 to $191,000.
And that is taking place at the end of the 2024 summer?
Yeah, that would be fall of 2024. So then phase 2 would be occurring in spring of 2025. And so turf improvement on that would be $12,000. The irrigation system for that back area would be $76,000. The nets would be in phase 2. So that totals around $106,000, $109,000.
South Street, yeah.
Any questions so far?
So how many fields go on phase 1?
Basically all of the field. So
All of the soccer.
yeah, so you can see it if you have the irrigation plan. Basically everything that's shaded in yellow is phase 2,
Yeah.
Right, so the next
and everything
page
that's not shaded in yellow is phase
shows-
1.
Right, so here's this baseball diamond, and then this baseball diamond, so it's, yeah. So
So that's-
all of the soccer fields would be done, so it like goes along here,
And I do have that in a sheet further
right
in.
along the edge of the parking, the playground.
So basically from the nice baseball field forward would be done in phase 1. And then the nice baseball field and the softball field and the soccer field in the back would be done in phase 2.
And phase 2's not, you're not even showing fields on any fields on phase 2, right? It's just that
Just the,
it would just be irrigating the existing stuff.
Well, there would be some leveling and filling in of low spots over
But
there
that,
as well.
you'd put a soccer field back there too?
There's already a soccer field back there. The
Oh.
7-8 field is in the back there.
Okay, it's
Some
just,
larger
it's
fields.
just not.
is on this back here.
Yeah, it's
Okay, it's just-
What are
it's
the
just-
dimensions of the
it's
7/8 field? anyway?
Right, yeah.
The 7/8 field, I think it is.
No, I know, it's just,
Oh.
I have this information because I lay out the fields every season, but
Right.
I think
It's not in there.
I think it's around 210 feet wide and 310 feet deep, but I might be messing it up.
330.
here.
So it is 330, so you got like 110 yards.
Yep.
No,
Oh.
it's over
So
here.
it's- I mean,
So if you look
It's
over
up-
here, it's over
towards
here.
the
That's
south.
close
It's over
to,
here, yeah.
I mean,
So they're not showing.
a lot
Yeah.
of, lot of high schools probably don't get much more than that out of their.
No, I
field.
mean, it's, I think that's like regulation for.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I
it's a
think,
really big, nice field.
yeah. So that, so you'd while you were off of the front, you'd be playing on the back.
Yes,
And,
so,
and like you said, you'd be beating it to death, so,
which the.
but
yeah,
then the ideal
but
thing
then
is
the-
to come in the next season.
Yeah, the idea is then that one is getting rebuilt the following
And,
season.
and when
so
they
it's
talk
not-
about establishing turf, if you get started in, if you do leveling in like August and get stuff seeded in late August, early September, they feel like you're in a position to be
Yeah.
playable spring of the next season.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the grass would come in that fall, and then, in the spring, it would really take root. And
Right.
we'd be good at that point, especially with the irrigation system, which I've had conversations with the turf company, which I'll get into that a little bit further in, just regarding, his numbers right now are based off of there being an irrigation system.
Right.
So, that part of the project is pretty inexpensive, but if we don't have an irrigation system, then there's going to be additional cost to try and make sure that we don't lose the grass and put all that money in for nothing.
Irrigation. Here's the turf.
So that number will go up if there's not an irrigation system installed.
Do you have a quote from the turf guy, or just the number
Yes.
that's in here?
I do. So that is the updated quote. He actually only sent me. Just make sure I have 3 copies of that. He sent me an updated copy. So he sent 2 quotes. He sent it in phases as well. So he sent a quote for the front area. He sent a quote for the back area. He just sent me the updated quote today, and he only sent me the updated quote for the front area. But I basically just figured out what the percentage had changed and added that to the other one. So this is the front area. Which again, that number is still inside of what we had budgeted.
No, it's not here.
Right. So there's nothing that says how many square feet or delineating that this quote is for phase 1.
He doesn't have it does he have it labeled at all or no? When he emailed it
Yeah, yeah.
over, he emailed it with phase 1,
Right.
phase 2, front fields,
Yeah,
back
right.
fields. But again, it doesn't look like it's labeled on here.
Just asking.
Yep, but this is for the front area, and then he just didn't send me over both, but I ran out of time at that point. But even with that, yeah, like I said before, the total is still under 40,000, and, I just left the buffer there for
And-
any additional things that might have not been accounted for.
So who's doing the leveling?
That is PTS, Prescription Turf Services. That is one company. We talked to 2, Trinity Irrigation also gave us a quote,
Right, so but this quote is just for,
but that is the more accurate one at this point.
okay, but it's just
But that's
for.
just, oh, turf improvement includes leveling?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so, okay, it's in there.
Okay. Just not trying to
No.
bust you.
No, not at all. No,
Just
I-
making sure.
No, I get it. So, any questions, I guess, to this point?
So what's going on with turf management in general? Are people, are these folks looking at newer approaches in terms of the seed mix that they use in order to deal with changing climate and stuff like that? Or are they basically saying, if you're irrigating, we know we can use the traditional tried and true seed mixes that we've used?
From my conversation with him, it's really just more, if they seed and then we don't get rain for, 3 months.
Right.
Obviously, we're
Water.
just gonna end up with
Yeah.
dirt fields. So, if.
But my question is, are turf managers looking at new varieties of grasses
Just
that
to combat,
that
just like.
stand up to heavy use and deal with climate issues?
I know there are different types of grass they use for areas like this that receive a lot of usage,
Right.
like for fields and stuff like that. Regarding like climate change, that's not a conversation
Yeah.
that I've had. So,
And as far as beyond this, for maintenance and all that other stuff, Rec's going to address that.
I have all that laid out. I don't know if I have that laid out in this, but I will go. We have gone through all that, and I have answers for you for that as well.
Because you talked to Kristen,
John talked to Kristen, yes.
and she commented and said that she was in favor of putting a line item into the budget that would cover some of the additional expense.
Yes.
That would
Beyond
be her
what
recommendation.
soccer and rec cover, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So at this point, Rec committed that they would contribute $12,500 to us, not to us or whoever. Those are some of the details I was trying to figure out with Kristen, but I haven't talked to her about that yet. But Rec would contribute $12,500. Baseball would contribute $1,000 above. They already take care of their own fields and have them fertilized and stuff like that, but they'll
Mhm.
contribute $1,000. We are going to raise our fees to contribute $8,000, so that leaves around $8,000 or $9,000, which Kristen said that seemed more than reasonable for them to be able to get into the budget and cover. So.
But that sounds more equitable because now everybody's.
Right.
Well, the
Because it's not-
school uses the fields, the other people in town use the fields
Right.
besides
Yeah, I
you
mean, it's-
guys, so it really distributes the expense across the
But
board.
I think those that are using it, because I think initially the comment was, we want to keep fees fair or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think if you want these kind of fields, that's part of it is
Right.
the fees go up. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's should be expected and is fair.
Yeah.
That's a good selling point at town meeting, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because instead of
that's
saying,
gonna
oh, the town has to
travel.
absorb everything,
Yeah.
it's like the families that use it are going to pitch in because they know they're getting something from it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fees, so I think that.
Well, I mean, if you think about, number of people in town, you're talking about everyone's paying $3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
Um,
even though I don't anticipate using the field, I think I can absorb.
But the
Right.
psychology.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's probably the most highly used recreational area in town. So
Oh.
Right, well, and
it makes
especially once
sense
the
to-
pavilion is in, and
Yeah.
now that the courts are, I anticipate more people using.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the
that-
difference now that those courts are done, just how many
Yeah.
people are down there. And I mean, it was a ghost
Well, I
town.
mean,
down
it's
there
really
before.
becoming a plan through all
Yeah.
of these projects, and they talked about the playground is coming, and,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in
it's
the
really
master
gonna
plan
turn it
that
into
you
a
guys
great
are-
space instead of a neglected
It's all.
space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right. So let's see. Moving on. We don't need to look at why this qualifies. We've already gone through that. Field reconstruction process. We have pretty much already gone over that for the most part, but just to kind of go over in a little bit more detail, I guess. So, two-phase approach. Phase one, front fields are completely redone. They should be leveled off and flattened. They should receive new irrigation system. The wells and pump equipment will be installed. The fields will be reseeded. And there's a map after that page that just represents phase one and phase two. which we've already reviewed, but.
Oh, shoot.
Phase 2, the rear soccer field would be leveled and reseeded. The soccer field and baseball fields to have irrigation lines installed. There will be some minor baseball field repairs needed post-irrigation, and that's the area represented in red. With the size of the irrigation lines and stuff that go in, like the main lines, it's not one of those deals where they have the machine and it just drags the line through. They have to, excavate and backhoe to put
Yeah.
those lines in, so it's a little bit more invasive.
Where would the shed go?
The idea at this point is that the wells and pump equipment would be centrally located, basically between where Phase 1 and Phase 2 are, so that way it's kind of in the middle of where all the irrigation is.
I would put it.
So it basically would be.
Will they have access to electricity, basically?
Those are questions I'm working on as well. I reached out to John Campbell to try and find out what type of power the school has, because that makes a difference as to what kind of pump we can use. My question to Kristen, well, one of them was, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how, basically, how we would get power to it, where that would come from, and who
Just saying.
pays
Yeah.
for that power. Because I don't know.
But
I don't know right now if the town pays for the power for the school. So
No, it is a regional school, so
Regional.
they pay their own.
they pay their own. Yeah.
But
so-
that's where I would say.
But we pay
Rex-
the assessment, so,
Yeah. So
comes
those.
out of the same pocket.
Yeah. So those are some of the answers I'm still working
Yeah.
on.
But,
I would-
how large of a shed is this?
It's not. I mean, I would think it would be similar to the soccer shed.
Okay.
But I would say this is where Rex should step in. I mean, if they're going to have a revised plan for an announcer booth and this and that, if you can, instead of popping up all these little structures, work together and.
Yeah, 100%. Like
You know.
it makes sense to have
But
this all
that,
thoughtfully.
maybe you don't have it right now, but
Yeah.
by then, of going to town, because I think people will ask
Yeah.
the questions about where's the pavilion, where's, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not.
These are all things we're hoping to
Yep.
have before the town meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say that's going to be the biggest task.
You should at least have something tentative.
Yes.
Yep.
Even if it's.
Yeah.
Well, and the location of the pavilion is actually going to be a warrant item, so
Mhm.
you should definitely have that hammered out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, all this stuff really needs to be thought out together.
Right.
So that's going to be the big
Right,
task
yep.
before the town meeting.
And do you know where the announcer's booth was going to be under the previous plan?
That I'm not aware.
I have not, I haven't even,
I honestly was not even
Okay.
aware of a announcer's booth plan.
I mean, associated with this diamond was all I understood.
Right, that's
Which-
what I
which
thought. I
diamond
thought
was
it
in
was
the
going to
front?
be like
The main-
over here
The primary
somewhere.
baseball field, right. Yeah.
Right.
Because the argument was that then offered, well, the scoreboard existed too, but the two jointly together offered a better chance to do tournaments here and
Right.
playoffs and all that stuff. where they
So,
weren't able to
and the
accommodate
scoreboard
that.
has power.
Yep.
So.
So there is power down at this end of the
Yeah.
field somewhere.
Yeah.
Or they need to get it
Yeah. Oh,
we are pressuring REC to start the master plan process.
Yeah.
Or to include us.
Yes.
Good. Other questions?
So I just want to go over a little bit more detail. So I just kind of had some of the logistics, just so that was clear as well, like regarding the different phases. So basically, during Phase 1, all the fields will be overlaid onto the 7-8 field, with the exception of the 1-2 fields, which we'll probably lay out somewhere on the other side of the school, where
Mhm.
the kids kind of play soccer right now. And we've actually had 1-2 fields laid out over there before. But it'll take a little bit more moving nets around and stuff like that. But with the schedule, the way it is typically laid out, there's an hour and a half between every different levels game, so there's no problem, there's no overlap and stuff like that, so.
So the fields on the other side of the school are under the control of the school?
Yes, they own a 10-acre, we turned over a 10-acre parcel.
So You've been talking to John?
We have had fields over there before when
Or-
we've had issues, because this isn't the first time we've had grass, like, issues with the turf down there. So there was another time that we had to move one of the 1-2 fields over there because there was just no grass where the 1-2 field
And
was.
so you've got a good relationship with the school in regard to doing that sort of stuff? So good, yeah.
Get it in writing, sir. Well, people change.
No, you're right.
Like we discussed before, I mean, that's most definitely going to run the turf back there into the ground. We'll definitely promote teams to not practice on them as well, so at least it's only games being played on there, but I'm sure it's going to take its toll on that field. But the idea is in the spring of the following year, we'd be redoing that field, so it won't matter. But again, soccer schedules allow for this approach. If there are any issues, we could always have an extra away game if we need to make everything work.
So how much is the total project?
The total project was
300.
Yeah, basically 300.
That includes phase 1 and phase 2?
Yes, that's the entire scope. Phase 2 is a lot easier since we have that whole front surface. The 7-8 field would have to be laid over the other fields, and we would sort that out. The only other thing would just be coordination with Berlin Baseball when the irrigation is being installed around the baseball fields.
Mhm.
But the irrigation goes fairly quickly, so that shouldn't be an issue. So we discussed the maintenance plan, working with Rec on the master plan. There has been, someone reached out to Kristen, right, regarding basically creating a position for like maintaining the fields and,
I mean, we have no
uh,
insight until.
That's Freddie.
well, in terms of like, I think like painting the fields, because right now I'm the one who paints the fields, and basically having a position, like a paid position that would do a lot of that stuff.
I can barely hear you, sir.
Oh, sorry about that. I tend to mumble. Yeah, just there are talks about possibly creating like a position to manage some of like painting the fields and stuff like that. But
Someone on the highway department, like an additional member?
I don't have too much detail on that yet. I just know that someone did approach Kristen about that.
What's your sense about the time commitment that would be necessary through the course of this, the seasons that? fields are
Painting the
active?
fields?
Well, it sounds like it's
For
more.
the position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got baseball, you've got soccer, you've got, so,
There's also things like, I think the new courts, like taking the nets down and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
it might
Closing the bird nets? Or
Yeah.
opening the bird nets?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, my guess would be maybe, I don't know, 8 hours a week or something like that.
yeah. And then, so now highway mows the fields.
Mm.
But with the addition of irrigation, the demand on mowing is going to increase, I suspect, right? You'd end up having to, if you have a
Mow it
season
more
like we
often.
had this year,
Right.
when we were mowing our lawns every 5 days, right?
Yeah.
So,
And they were already pretty stressed. It
Right.
seemed like not having enough time to mow them weekly.
But regardless, they really have to mow those fields every week anyway, and I don't think the irrigation system is going to create a need to mow them more than
More
once
than
a
that,
week.
okay.
But they're definitely going to have to get mowed once a week.
yeah.
Part of that is coming from my own experience installing irrigation recently, and
I mean,
it's
now
still
when
a
they
once-a-week
mow,
process,
they
but
don't carry off, they don't bag everything when they're mowing, do they?
only if they've waited too long. And
Right.
it's
So they have the
tons of-
capacity to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's, Finance Committee has been asking, what are the increased costs going to be? So, that's the thing that they're going to try to explore, so.
Yeah.
any ability on our part to answer those questions, your
Yeah.
ability to answer those questions.
And again, those are some of the answers that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
I sent Kristen an email today.
Well, you've done a great job in filling in a lot of the pieces
Yeah.
that we were, in a short period of time. So I think I'm impressed. You've done a good job.
I'd like to say that the maintenance plan, besides the 2,000 for well maintenance and electricity,
Mhm.
it's going to be needed whether we do this project or not. It's just something to maintain those fields.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be more because we don't have irrigation. And then, the mowing, well, we need more consistent mowing in general, but I don't know if that's going to be possible because it's a highway department thing.
The system maintenance in terms of this irrigation, do you end up with the installer coming on an annual basis or biannual basis?
So typically they would come out
Winterize
and they
it and
would
all that sort of
winterize
stuff?
it
Yeah.
at the end and blow all the lines out and then, activate it again in the spring.
Right.
And again, these are all the questions I'm trying to sort out, whether that falls under a existing department already, if it's gonna be stuff that we have to
Right.
somehow sort out. I was also asking her in terms of, we have 4 different contributors to the maintenance plan, how that's going to look, and, do we have to give the money to the town? So all the contributors have to give the money to the town, and the town's paying the bills?
Right.
Is it something that we're able to manage, and we get the money from everyone else?
Right. Good.
So those are questions that I have out to her at the moment.
Well, those are the good questions, so that's good.
But really, kind of my outstanding questions are that, and then the power situation, what that looks like, who's paying for it.
Mhm.
Again, we do have, a little bit of space in some of these numbers, again, to try and make sure that we have things covered in case it is falling back on us, but I'm just trying to have all those answers and have all that stuff nailed down.
Well, it's good to know, because even if it's not ultimately yours, somebody has to take responsibility for it versus
Yeah.
everybody goes, eh.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Right,
so-
and that's really the problem
that's-
with, the answer being, well, I paint the fields now. Well, that's
Yeah.
great, but eventually your kids are gonna go to college, and you're probably not
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
wanna
not-
do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's,
But does he really want to do it now?
well.
Some days it's not so bad, some days I'm cursing as I'm out there.
I know, but I think getting those numbers together for, you're asking all the right questions to finish. I mean, the maintenance cost isn't going to be the biggest part of that compared to this, but it's the part that's going to be consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd
Right.
be good to talk to the irrigation company to say, like, how many heads break a year? What's the average?
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to aerate it, so it doesn't know what they're doing and hits all your heads, well, that's another whole animal. So,
Yeah.
those are the, make sure they have insurance in case they wreck your system,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
those
what
are
is,
key.
what is the head replacement like?
I mean, most of that stuff is fair, like the individual pieces are pretty cheap.
Yeah. But this is
but-
gonna. But I would even
but
just.
it's
I'm not
obviously
saying you have to
large.
think about it now, but I would just say. But even like.
No, I agree. It would be
What's
good to
what's
have,
the
like-
What's the lifespan of a system like that? I mean, I've got a 20-year-old, maybe 15, 20-year-old system, but I've got I don't know. I don't know
11
how many-
heads or something?
No, I have like
Oh, do you
I
guys
have
have
like
a boatload?
I have like probably 50 heads. I mean, and they break. At that age, and they start to go. So once they start to go, that what's replacement has. They won't all go at once, but that's something to figure for down the road. Maybe he'll be lucky. He'll get 10 years, but I had an aerator go through and bang, 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 bang. I lost about half my head. So things like that happen. So.
Yeah, I had lightning, well, I got two.
Well,
Yeah, you
okay.
got-
There
I
you
got
go.
two systems that, one well has enough capacity, so I got 4 zones. One well's got
Okay,
lousy capacity, I
that's a
got
really good.
17
Okay,
zones.
so there's a really good question. So if you put that irrigation, the town owns it. It's the town's insurance cover a lightning strike or.
I
Well, I would
ass-
imagine,
I would
yeah.
assume,
So-
but, I mean, then you want surge protection and stuff like that built into the system, and when I lost a controller and a variable speed pump, because we didn't have it, so.
Yeah.
I learned my
Those are
lesson.
the things to think about.
Mm.
Other questions, kids?
No, I'm really impressed. You pushed your hard last time, and you really did come through.
Yeah.
This makes a lot more sense. I was really concerned.
Yeah.
So this makes a lot more
Well,
sense.
I think-
And to the point, it's up almost 50.
Yeah.
So, had you done that and not done the homework, I think,
Yeah.
then you would have been stuck. So I think this is good.
Well, I'm glad you leaned into us last time, because I think when we came away from the first meeting, in my mind, this vote was more or less just whether it qualified. And I didn't realize that it's really like you have to approve a number, and that's what moves forward, is
Yeah,
the
that's the
number
first
that you
read.
approve.
Yeah.
Right.
Warrants.
Right.
So
that-
I think once we came out of that meeting, I realized like how much detail you guys really need to know.
Well,
So
like
we're not.
Wayne said, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
Right.
really
I mean,
have.
our job not only is to make sure it qualifies, but it's also to make sure, to vet the project to make sure it's going to be successful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the other part of our job is to make sure you have enough money.
Yep.
You've asked for 255 in your application, and we're now at 300.
Yep.
So are we modifying that?
We would have to. Yeah. I wasn't even thinking about the actual application.
That's it.
Right.
So what does that mean?
Change a number.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
It would just, right, we just need to make sure that the
I didn't know what that
application
meant.
reflects the ask.
I didn't know if that meant see you next month.
no.
Sorry, you did it wrong.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Other questions, kiddos?
Right, go ahead.
So when this if this is approved by us and gets proposed, so now it's phased. So we understand how it will be spent, but you know where I'm going with this, I think. So it's, somebody questions, oh, well, and we're seeing this, okay, well, I only want 100, and, I'm willing to pay for the phase 1, not phase 2.
You mean in town meeting?
Mhm.
Someone asked. I think, well, let's talk. I mean, it seems as though it doesn't work unless you buy into the whole project. So that although they phase it, which makes a great deal of sense because it's the only way you can work with variable seasons and, spread it out so it's actually functional.
Mhm.
They need the commitment of the whole sum.
Yeah.
And if people, as we've understood it, when a project comes into the town meeting, they can reduce the number on the floor. They can vote it down. They can vote to commit the money but not expend it, which is a weird one. They stash it in conservation, that.
The rec,
You know
Yeah.
how those people are.
But, I mean, it seems as though the argument has to be at town meeting, it has to be the whole package, because you can't put in an irrigation system without the wells. You can't, there's no point in putting in the irrigation system without committing some money to do the fields and
Yeah,
the
but it's all
rehab.
gonna be done in the same fiscal year.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
true.
basically, yep.
But that's the question. So phase 1 is going to be done in one fiscal year. Oh, that's not
No,
true.
same True.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Different
sorry.
calendar years.
Yes.
But same fiscal year, pretty
And,
much.
and Tim, you're saying that they can reduce the amount, but they can't increase it on the
But if they
floor.
reduce the amount, then in essence, they're reducing the scope.
Right, and
So that-
I would think these guys would have to say, you've killed us, we can't move forward, there's no point in us expending any of this money unless we have that full amount. And I can't imagine people voting a lesser sum. I can imagine people saying, no, we're not doing any of it, or yes, we're doing all of
Yeah.
it. But I can't see people piecemealing, can you?
I can see.
Well,
somebody
there are a
bringing
couple
it up.
of people I can imagine
Yeah.
trying to piecemeal it.
Yeah.
Right, I can see it coming up.
So you'll give them a ticket to go out for dinner that night.
I just think the point we're trying to make is assuming this is approved,
Right.
you really have to have your presentation down and think about the naysayers.
All
and,
of
and,
the
and- and-
potential.
and the words you use. I mean, you're still iffy, but you need to be tight.
Well, the problem
Yeah.
too is that.
Whoop, I got it.
Eloise, how much time is Barry going to allow for a presentation? You know,
Usually about
10 minutes.
10 minutes, maximum
Right.
10 minutes. People are antsy.
So,
Town
but-
meetings,
but-
they
people are
want-
but then there's
Yeah.
question and
To vote.
answers.
Well, but you can have but there can be a, you know,
Debate that
there's a
can go
thing
on.
for the articles
Yeah.
beforehand where you really,
I will
explain it.
I will say one thing. Fence.
Yeah.
The garden fence last year. More conversation happened about that fence around the community gardens last year at town meeting than any other.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo card on what I was going to
No.
be getting up to speak
No.
about.
And my guess is this might be a similar.
Yeah, which
Topic.
makes one of the questions
So-
too is how long this is going to last. Obviously, there's going to be maintenance, but $300,000 is a number that's going to, you know, really scare some people and annoy some people. So you want to be able to say, you know, look, you're not go- this will last 20, you know, whatever time span, because that's something with the fence.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
it's $40,000, but that's spread out over a use of, you know, 20 years, I think it was. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're able to you know, get
And you-
down how, you know,
And you do realize that if it is voted at town meeting, you have to go out to bid again.
Yes, we understand all that, so. Regarding a couple of things that were just discussed. One would be, while I would like to see the whole project happen, if Phase 1 got approved and Phase 2 didn't, that would definitely be something that could make sense, because the irrigation and field repairs in the back could be done down the road,
Mhm.
but at least the well's in and the front fields are flattened, so we can reorient things. We can start working towards our master plan, and get those fields more usable than what they are now. One of my questions to Kristen was, what does that look like in a town meeting? If we get voted down on the entire project.
That's it.
That's it.
So, but you
So
said.
if it looks like it's going that way, then you make a motion to modify it on the floor.
Can they?
So it
can they-
basically, that has to happen before there's an actual vote. It's not like they vote, say no, and then you're like, well, in
You
that
can-
Can they,
case.
mo- can
You-
they modify?
You
the-
can't
can
reconsider,
they-
really.
Can they
You
modify
can-
the project if we
You can
approve that?
move to
Not
reconsider if
after-
you
not
voted.
Not unless
after
you
a
have
vote.
new information.
Not on the floor.
But if you voted
Before they can change the scope of the project.
in the
If it looks like
in the
it's gonna go
negative and
bad,
it failed,
you can-
Correct.
you can be a maker of a motion to reconsider. If there's new information, the new information would be we're prepared to modify the ask.
Can we modify the
Based
ask, or
on
isn't
the
it what we
question,
present?
If
you
it
can,
goes
in
down,
the
if
field
it's a
for the
lesser number.
town,
But isn't what we
for
present,
the,
we
you know,
present for the
how
scope?
people,
I don't
if
know,
they're
maybe-
starting to
maybe I
throw
don't
things
understand.
at you.
So
that's
we can
not
do
a
some
good
work
sign.
on that.
Well, the other,
But
sorry, Eloise, my apologies.
you can withdraw it.
I don't think it'll come to that.
I don't think so.
No.
So
I'm just curious, because I don't, like.
I mean, your other thing too is that there is a town meeting scheduled for the fall, and while that wouldn't necessarily help, if it does, I mean,
Well, it
please-
would if you were waiting for phase 2.
Well, I'm just saying, well, whatever.
The total dollar's still the same though, so,
Yeah.
you know,
It's-
it seems like people need to either face the
So
reality.
what
Face it or not, yeah.
bucket is it coming out of?
So it comes out of the.
Open space rec?
No, because open space rec doesn't have enough, so it would come out of the
Budgeted.
funds that are in budgeted reserve, which is more than adequate.
Undesignated ones?
It's a budgeted reserve account that we put money into and park it there annually, and that's outside of the 10% that goes into each of the required packages. And those 10% accumulate over time unless they're expended. The budgeted reserve goes back into the general account, but we vote annually to put money into that. And right now, budgeted reserve has got enough to cover this.
Then I make a motion that we approve this.
Well, we want to do all these we've got a checklist. Maureen's got a big plan here.
I
so-
saw.
Yeah, so
I
we'll-
saw.
if you don't mind,
So
we'll vote on.
You want to vote on all of them, not?
We'll do them
One
later.
We'll look at them all. and
Yeah,
get-
because I want to review money that's available and a bunch of stuff like
Okay.
that.
Do you need me to refill this out, or did you just mark up?
I
the
marked
ones
it.
you did? So I don't have to worry about the
Is that all right with you, Maureen?
I would like it filled out.
Oh, you want a new one.
So here's the original. You can copy it, you can copy it and
As
just,
long as you change the date and the time, I mean, and the amount.
And the
that's
amount.
all I'm looking for. See in the bottom part there?
On the
Date
existing.
will be provided.
Does anyone have a pen I can borrow? I don't actually.
Oh, do you have your own?
Here you
Yeah.
go, here you go, here you go.
Yeah, Barry does all this.
Thank you.
Yeah, the stuff we got from him, there wasn't none, but everything else. just the-
I can take them.
And Ray, can you send me that last presentation, that'd be great too.
Yep, I will do that.
Do you need sustenance? Keep going.
You can pass.
Oh, you were before me.
but only just, already in my sweat.
Cookies, gentlemen?
No, thank you.
I
So,
would love one, but I can't.
any more questions for these guys?
I don't think so.
I think you've done a really good job. I'll just say it again because
Thank you
I
very much.
really,
I appreciate
I
that.
really, you know, it's all about being a good presenter. You can't take it for granted, especially something this big. It's right, and you have to think about how you say it because words matter.
Yeah.
And when you say I didn't think of it, people think, oh.
They'll
Yeah,
prob-
even if you have an estimate, even if
What
you s-
else didn't they think
What else
of?
didn't they think of? So, you know, having those ongoing costs, thinking about, you know, if I said to you, if you don't have that answer to how long is this, what's the average life of a sprinkler head,
Yeah.
and you don't know that, somebody's gonna say, oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna be spending,
Someone will get up and
So-
offer that information.
oh, you've been.
More than one person.
So,
Scary, I've been around long enough.
That's great. Rec department selling them.
2 minutes already.
we've got, I talked to June, and because I wanted to get a handle on what's available in terms of funds. One of our objectives, I think, over the course of the years that we've been doing this, is to get to a point where we expend money that we really have, and not estimate, anticipated
For the
funds.
November.
So, the good news is that as of the end of June last year, the money that's available for affordable housing is $260,000. That's accumulated in their 10%.
Designated account.
The historical resources has got 82,000 in it. Open space has got 71, and the fund balance has got
A lot.
a lot,
Yeah, what's a lot?
because over 500. Because 850 came back from the match.
You're welcome.
And a substantial, some of that came out of open space went back into open space. That's why open space has some money, because we, of course, expended the 125 last year, but there's still some money in that. So June is pleased because the articles that we're putting forward all use money
Money we have.
we have instead
And
of...
not even all of it.
Right.
Nice.
Which is the first time.
So we're finally in that phase now where I think we've captured enough, and because of the match, we're in a position where we can try to concentrate our efforts on only expending money that's already here and not messing up with anticipated funds, because that really makes it hard for June.
Yeah.
So that's the good news. So if we look at the proposals that we've got, if this one's modified to 300,000, it can come out of the fund balance reserve. I mean, the budgeted reserve.
I hate to interrupt, I do have one question.
Yep.
Just because it was discussed. So the project needs to be completed within the fiscal year, correct?
No, it doesn't have to be
necessarily.
completed. no.
Just needs to be, all right, so phase 2 just has to start within the fiscal year.
The good news about
That's not even
this,
either.
the way we operate is
I
that,
think the way we're writing
in some
it.
cases, people are going to have to spend, like the Historical Commission has got funds that they're trying to use in anticipation of a matching grant, but they're not going to expend it in the fiscal year. They're carrying it.
All right.
So no,
All right.
you've got it. Once you get it, it may come to a point where, for instance, with the announcer's booth, we'll probably go back to rec and say, we're going to take this money back because you don't have enough money to do what you want to do, and rather than modifying it with another article later to add on to it, we're going to pull back the whole sum, and then you can approach it with a whole new application. And in some cases, a project like the fence didn't cost as much as we allocated, so we'll pull back some money out of that as well. But
Yeah, how much did that end up costing again?
41 something. Yeah, so
And we
there's
voted
three and
for-
45. So
Yeah. Right, and I think because CPA money is money that's already been collected, we would rather projects overestimate and not have to come back for more money and get money back.
Yeah.
Within, it's like overpaying your taxes. You
Yeah,
don't want
I
to
get it.
overpay too
Yeah,
much.
Rather get money back than have to.
Also, if you have to ask for more money again, then you run into having to go through
Greg.
town meeting again, and
Oh, is there something
There's
in the back there?
attachments too.
Ah,
Here.
and then I think it's.
I'll have those.
You'll add those?
Yeah, I have mine.
okay, good.
Okay, never mind. So Maureen will add the attachments.
I don't know.
I just needed the front one. So, yeah. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
So that gets out of balance reserve. Then the housing trust project for the use with projects that they might get involved with Habitat or the initial home buyer assistance, that sort of thing. That 200,000 can come out of the fund that's just set aside for affordable housing, which is in excess of the 200. So we can cover that one. The housing coordinator it's 20,000 total, 10,000 this year, 10,000 next year. So we're voting a commitment of 20. That can come out of the affordable housing pocket as well, because there's in excess of the 220 that we'd be looking for a commitment on. And then
220?
yeah, because there's 20 and 20. There's 20,000.
Two $10,000
$10,000 ones
payments.
for the housing
And
coordinator.
This is 30, though? I didn't know you
Yeah,
said
but
30.
it's
That's a different.
it's 10 and 10.
It's for this, is what he's talking about.
That's the housing coordinator. And then the rail trail.
Didn't we already
Oh,
pay
sorry.
10,000?
Why is it estimated?
No,
30?
we haven't paid anything
I
yet,
don't understand.
because the first year came out of
That's a good
a
question.
grant that we got.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
What's your
Why
question?
is this saying estimated 30, requested 20? Is that what you just said? Because we
Because
already...
it's 10 and 10.
And planning's also going to be contributing.
It's
planning.
20 total.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and planning's going to come up with, well, planning and housing partnership will come up with the additional money that's necessary to pay the installment for the next 2 years. And then after that, it's a question of whether we continue that program. I mean, I think the Housing Trust will ask some questions about, you know, have we accomplished a great deal with the position? I think they're going to say it's really been valuable, so.
Right. So we're going to vote
If we-
FY '25 and FY '26 this,
Well, I think we need to talk about
Yeah.
how to do that,
Well, historical gets money
and holds
and
it.
holds it, so
Right.
I don't see that there's
And
an
I think
issue.
contractually, Central Mass would probably like to know that there's a commitment.
sure,
Oh, I
and-
think
and
for
that-
both
that-
fiscal
right,
years.
Yeah,
And
so,
since we already have the money, that
Right.
shouldn't be an issue. It's not
Right.
like we're.
No, you just have to word the article
Yeah.
well,
appropriately.
yeah, and we're not expending it,
Expended
but,
10
you
and
know.
10.
Right.
And then the rail trail, because we've got that money that's in open space, the 30 could come out of open space and still leave some reserve in that. And that's been
So you're
modified.
going to take off recreation as a checkbox there?
Off of which one? Oh,
The-
Mass
the rail
Central
trail?
I think it's, I mean, what happens is,
Oh, open spaces.
open space and rec basically are out of the
We-
same.
We fight over the same
shoebox.
pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it satisfies both those conditions in this particular case, but it's being drawn out of one pot.
Got it.
Do you
Right.
want to say any more about that one? Because there's been some changes since the last proposal, and
Right, I mean, Robin did come and talk about why it's different.
so does this amount get used specifically for the phase that looks beyond Coburn Road?
So
Or,
this amount is the minimum that we need,
To secure the
assuming we get the grant. So the way the grant works, it's a reimbursement grant. I finally emailed Kristen and I'm like,
so we have to
talk to me
expand.
like I'm a 5-year-old.
Right.
I need to understand how this is going to work. So the proposal is in sections, and each section has a dollar amount.
Okay,
As things get checked off, we get a bill. So we don't need the whole entire dollar amount. We don't need to spend the whole entire dollar amount. We use it kind of as a revolving. So we
It's a fraction.
we get billed for $20,000. We pay $20,000. We apply to the grant. We get reimbursed $20,000.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's exactly when I finally understood. I was like,
So,
oh,
but-
that's how that's going to work.
so you apply, but you've applied initially, so they've committed X amount of money? Or
Correct.
So you know you're going to get
Right.
$80,000 out of
Right.
them?
But you
Right.
need,
But
but you
they
need
don't-
money to spend it.
But we only need a small
you need a
percentage
credit
of
card.
that.
And but you
To-
don't have to spend it for them to
Not the whole amount.
you're spending 20 and they're reimbursing you 20?
Correct.
Okay, so-
And then we spend another 20 and we get, and
So you-
until we get to the whole dollar amount.
So it's not like a land purchase where you've got to spend the whole sum?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like where I had to ask for 1.1 million.
So, but this 30, how does this play into the overall?
Because the whole thing is 100.
Because you've got 100 from the state, from the earmark.
Of which the select board has only approved 40 of it for us to spend.
Oh, I thought,
So, but that money hasn't come in yet.
I thought
If
that-
that money comes in, we will pull this article.
but I thought
If
you
the
had-
100 comes in?
Correct.
I thought you had 100 for you, because I thought, because you initially pitched 100.
We have 100, the state, we have $100,000 earmark from the state,
Yeah,
of which the select board has approved us to use 40 of it for the feasibility study.
but wasn't the original request for 150?
Because we thought that's how much we needed for a reimbursement grant.
Right, but if you're only going to get but if you're only going to get 40, and this is 30, that's 70, so I'm confused.
Once we get the money from the state, we're not gonna need this money. but the money from the state has not come in
But if you need.
because of the reimbursement
But-
grant.
So the reimbursement grant was for 100.
But there were two. There was the
No,
one that
no.
you were gonna apply for that you needed 25% or whatever, correct?
That's the only one.
But then I thought the town got additional money. I thought that was a different pool that the town had to accept.
Correct.
And they gave you 40 of that. So your grant is for how much, 100? All right, I'm not gonna ask the question.
No. I'm like trying to figure out how to use different words
I
to
think
explain.
My understanding is there were three funding sources. There was the grant you were applying for, the money that the select board accepted, and then there was this that I thought those were three buckets that were sort of in play.
No.
I don't understand this
Okay.
then at all.
So there is,
You thought your project was hard, huh?
right?
Little did we know.
I'm telling you. Okay, so there is the cost of the feasibility study, which originally Robin was estimating at $150,000.
Okay.
Okay. To pay for that, we're applying for a grant,
Yeah.
the reimbursement grant.
Which is how much you applied for. But how much-
The 150
You applied for the
The
full
full
Is the
150?
maximum that
is
you
the
can ask
maximum
for.
that we can apply for. But we only need to appropriate a percentage of that because of what I was just saying about,
That I get,
right?
yeah.
So all we really need to ask for is a percentage,
Got that.
okay? So we put this application in,
Yep,
and then we found out about the earmark.
yep.
And then the governor started clawing back earmarks.
No.
So we have applied to the state, said, yes, please, we'll take our money. They have said, okay, but we don't have it yet.
So that 40 that you have from them could replace this if it comes in.
We'll replace this
Yes.
if it comes in.
Okay, that's what I need.
But we don't want to pull this
I
until that actually
understand
happens.
that.
Okay.
But I was not hearing.
Okay.
Okay, now I get it.
You get it?
Yes.
But believe me, like I said to Kristen, I'm like, I still don't understand. I don't understand why we only need $30,000, not 150.
But you're getting 100. You're getting 150 from them, but you have to appropriate 30. So in the end, would you not?
We're gonna get
Would you even expend any of it, or are we gonna get the whole 150? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because-
we're
because-
going to expend $30,000 5 times
Okay,
to
but
get to the 150.
right. But if you get that 40 or whatever that might replace this, then there's no expenditure.
Correct.
I think that's an important thing to bring up based on the comment about.
Well,
taxpaying
hopefully
or
this
whatever,
won't
so.
even make it
Yeah,
to
no,
that
that's
point.
But when,
Now I get it.
our sense was that you might not hear until June.
But all she needs is the 30.
That's about the grant.
Right.
Believe me, yes, which is why we're still moving forward
So
with this.
you'd still have to go to the floor for this,
Correct.
because you're unlikely to hear that you've got the grant.
Right, and if we don't get the grant, we have to beat up the select board for the rest of our money.
Yeah.
So you need this 30 to get the grant, but you still may not get it.
If,
And then if you don't get the money, if you don't get the grant, you'll have 30 and have to go fight for the rest.
Right.
Got it.
So there's no point in asking for more from us,
correct.
even though you might need it, right?
Well, they would have 100,000 if they have access to. No, you might need more than that, because if it's gonna be 150,
If they
But it
cl-
might
if
not
they-
be 150 also.
But if they claw back on the earmark, and you only end up with the 40,
I know. If it were up to me, we would be asking for more. This is what Robin wants to do. And Kristen also feels comfortable with this.
okay,
So,
that's what you've asked for.
yep,
but now it's clear.
Yep.
as mud.
No, no,
So- so-
no, it's clear. It's
So
just-
if-
it's a shell game.
It's a shell game, that's absolutely what it is.
If the grant for the 150 does not get approved, would the feasibility study get canceled, or would it still
No, we would go to the select board and try to get more of the earmark money.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if the state claws back on earmarks,
We've signed the paperwork for the 100.
so what if
Theoretically,
what
the
would
100.
this, I thought the whole
There's
earmark
two
was
different
marked
buckets. There's
for
100
for
there's
rail
100
trail.
There's 150 and there's 100.
I know, but the earmark for the rail trail was earmarked for the rail trail.
I agree.
So if they only release 40.
They would like to keep some of it to,
Construct?
no, for alternative path studies or other rail trail related things
Discussions.
that may come up.
Is the 100 for this particular rail trail or any rail trail?
I believe the whole entire earmark is like 5 words. Like $100,000 for Berlin for the rail trail.
No, which rail trail?
Oh, okay.
Well, there's only one rail trail.
Well, that's, never mind. I'm not-
There is only one rail trail. There are other trails, but there is only one rail trail.
Okay.
And
Would
that's
it
the one
also-
where the railroad used to go on.
Would it also make sense if you don't get that full funding to cut it into the original? Only
Right,
to Coburn
into,
Road, yeah.
absolutely, and that's a possibility as well. Yep.
Okay. But 30's 30.
Right.
Good, all right.
I
So-
always seem to come
We've-
with stuff hanging in the air.
No, but that helps us.
It's clear.
Yeah. But that is why this is the way it is, and that's why it kind of jumped around a little bit too.
Okay.
All right. Other discussion that people need that's in general terms about any of these projects?
I don't think so, because so the housing one is just money, seed money, basically.
The housing money is to have the capacity to spend money if Habitat ended up saying, here's a tax title piece in Berlin, the town has gone through the motions to make it available to us, we're willing to work with you if you can help us with some sum of money to get this
Water and
kick
stuff.
started.
Yep.
25,000 or something like that, and then after the fact, you ended up with a first-time home buyer that could qualify for the mortgage but was having trouble with the down payment.
Right, they have their grant
They've got
program.
the ability to do a grant on that, which, as you looked at the language, if they hold on to the property for X period of time, then
think it was
they're
10
released
years.
from it. And
Yeah.
if they sell the property sooner, there's a piece that they've got to pay back based
Yeah.
on a roll and scale. So,
But that's their determination, how they work that out.
yeah, I mean, they
Well,
gave us a sample of the language.
payback,
Right.
so it was 10 years. First 5, if you sell the property within the first 5 years, you have to pay back all the money. And it's a $10,000 grant.
But we don't
It-
need, but we don't need to know the finality
No.
of that whole plan in order to approve
Right,
this. This is
no,
what
but
it's
they
for.
do have that finalized as to.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
remember them talking about it.
Yeah.
Would they use North Andover or
But
something
this
like
is,
that as a model?
but this is, so they could use these funds, if the Habitat one didn't go through, they could use it all for that other
Program.
program.
Yeah, so what
And then they have to come back to us when they want the next batch.
What the
So
what the
go ahead.
consortium said was, Stuart from the consortium said, he didn't like the way some towns dealt with housing trusts by turning over the entire 10% every year to the trust and just saying, here, it's yours, do what you want. He felt that town meeting ought to decide how that money is utilized and
Well,
make it
doesn't-
more
It
transparent.
doesn't get turned over unless it's just voted as every single year. It's just a blanket transfer into an account for them to spend. I think
But that's what some towns do.
Right, I think
Yeah.
what we're doing makes a lot more sense.
Right, and fortunately, the Housing Trust, I think, feels like that makes more sense to them, too, because they want to be transparent as to how the funds are
Well, I
spent.
think that's the point. I mean, I think it was a conversation I might have with Carolyn afterward. It's just, I think that, and to your point, is that I think people might not understand. I think our reputation as a committee is that we don't just go put anything.
Right.
There was a comment last year, put it in front and let the voters decide. That's not.
Yeah.
That's what our job is for. And if it doesn't make sense, if you don't come through with the info, it's like, you're
Yeah.
not going to vote it.
You're
So
not
I
ready
think-
for prime time.
I think that makes sense. And so, I mean, that's the the backstop on this part is that, okay, you're getting $200,000 and
But-
we're watching what happens with this. And
Right.
if it doesn't make sense next time, we'll be harder.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Right. Yeah. And there may very well be other programs. I mean, they may try to do something with putting money into a pool that's available for rental assistance. But the problem that they foresee is that if they don't have access to the funds
They can't
and
do
can't
stuff.
turn it around quickly and have to wait for a town meeting, opportunities lost. And
Yeah, I mean,
that's a
I'd
viable
like to
argument.
see in future years, and that's up to them to come request it, but like the project we did last year, I think to put a reserve for that particular purpose so that they could act on that, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Because I think those opportunities could happen.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense, but that's their decision to make the priority that they want to make.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So other questions? Okay.
So it's 565, 550 is the total that we have.
Yeah, we've got 2, 5, 20, and 30, so
Yeah.
550. And interestingly enough, we generated this year 319, and we got from the state about 180, 179.
Yes.
So basically, we're getting 600,000 this year, anticipated.
And we still have that.
And we're spending money from last year, and we're spending less. So, I mean,
This is good.
it's really, it means that I think we're being responsible, and we're not overexpending, and we're not anticipating revenue and spending it, we're trying to keep
Those
within
first
the
couple of
bounds.
years, there was kind of just a
Well,
lot
you
of
ended up with some
backup
big stuff, right?
and conservation had a couple big items, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's to the point that sometimes you can't wait on this stuff, so you need to keep a little bit in reserve so you
Yeah.
can act on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And if you really ended up in a bind, I mean, you can borrow, bond against it, and that's not something that we've relished the notion of, but towns do that. I mean, Littleton's done that, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it usually only for big stuff, though?
Yeah, but it's like a note for 20 years,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
encumbering your revenue stream for a long, long period of time,
Right.
which,
Yep.
Not ideal, but always good to have as an option if
Pay
that
off early.
one,
yeah.
But it's interesting, the town of Stowe, they've been in par for 15 years and they've never done any borrowing on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it means being judicious to a
Yeah.
degree, unless you have some crazy, has to happen project.
Yeah.
Right.
So, 4 projects, Eloise threw out a motion way back, and we said, wait along. Do you have a motion that you'd like to make in regard to any of these?
I'd like a motion to support all of the projects at the listed price. Housing, 20,000. Open space, 30,000. Did you want the 150 or 30?
30.
Well, I thought that's what you said. Budgeted reserve, 300,000 for the South Common Field, and the Housing Trust, 200,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second.
Any other additional comments, conversations, questions? All right, all those in
Think
favor
we've
say
beat
aye.
them all to death.
Aye.
Thank you very much, nice job. Thank you, guys.
Just-
I mean,
Thank
you hit a home run when you came in
Yeah.
tonight. I mean, you really did your homework. That was really helpful for us.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the input and help with everything, so.
Well, I think you're far better prepared to deal with town meeting now, because,
Yeah.
you
Get your
and,
partners
but I
in
think,
crime to
talk to
help.
Barry some more, ask him how much time he might allow you, that sort of thing. Think about handouts ahead of time that you can
Yeah, 'cause the
utilize. The selectmen will have an opportunity for people to speak to warrant articles,
In
A
advance.
coffee talk.
yeah,
Coffee
something
talk.
like
Oh, yeah,
that.
that would
Yes,
be really
you'll
helpful.
definitely have
Coffee
to
talk
attend
leading up
coffee
to
talk.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have one where people can ask questions about whatever article and they
Right,
go
they
through
go
them. So-
through the whole
so that-
warrant.
So that's your opportunity to do your dry run and answer all the questions and.
Right, and it's a really good, exercise
Yeah.
because you find out the questions, some of the questions that you might not have answers to,
Yep.
that people will ask at town meeting and will want answers to. So you'll be
Yeah.
able to be better prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the town meeting, would it be something that I'm most likely like going through our PowerPoint presentation?
That's what you want to
and
talk to Barry, because he sometimes limits.
Yeah, because he'll tell you how much time you've got.
Right.
And then also have like handouts of the presentation?
Yep.
Yep.
Alright, so I'm gonna be
Yep.
killing lots of trees for that.
Give out stuff, lots of
Well,
times
you
there's
don't
people
have
in the hall.
to, the presentation doesn't have to be quite as many pages. You might be able to pare it down a little.
Yeah.
Sometimes bullets are really, they've had short attention spans, so you
Yeah.
gotta.
Right, but especially if you
Boil
are
it
then
down.
going to do the PowerPoint, you don't have to have it all spelled out, but
Yeah.
a map with the highlight and this is going to,
Run it
This is
by
gonna-
Carolyn.
right.
Yeah.
If you want to sit down and talk at a time, I happen to have a little bit of experience with these things.
Yeah.
But seriously, a map with X's and,
kind of
and
that.
words and stuff, you can get the majority of the information across with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you had to
Um,
do the details, so we knew you did your homework and the numbers are real and stuff like that,
Right.
but that
Right.
doesn't always,
Like,
all that
You
great.
can even do the map on one side and the bullets on the other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
But
Good.
I'll be happy to help you out if once you pull stuff
Yeah.
together, if you just want to run it by me or whatever, and
Yeah, once we pull
Or-
the rest of the information together that we're looking for.
yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
take
or-
you up on that.
Or, we're going to be meeting, so you can come to one of our meetings and,
right. We'll punch holes in your
Are you going to
argument.
speak with the school committee?
Excuse me?
Are you going to be speaking with the school committee? They always have an opinion.
Yeah.
And Carol used to be the principal of Berlin Memorial.
Yep, Costello. We'll be talking with her.
yeah, just to make sure that that's
Well, you
buttoned
just
up.
don't want them to get up at town meeting and say, no, no.
Nobody said
No one talked
running
to us.
stuff on our
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah.
That's good. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, gentlemen. Maureen, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, we can do that, but next time.
We were on a roll.
Kristen also about you.
She had a whole score.
So we were supposed to do this before we voted.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it seemed like there was a tone in the air that,
I think that, I think that this,
really appreciate that we can do that.
I think this process is really important, though, if you're not, if, there's not enough
well, that's the
funds.
thing.
I
There's-
mean,
Yep,
you have
take
a
care.
hard decision, this helps you make it.
when you look at the categories that they're listed here, it would really help you resolve some of the conflict that you might have if you
There's
had a
nothing
project.
wrong with having this.
and maybe,
So all I can tell you is, from when I was in Groton, the history of having those is huge. What those scores are, kind of like deliberately, like, there's one there, and what I found the most interesting about the different towns that I've researched are the motions that are not unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for instance, like one example that I had was stained glass windows. And some people said, no, they're in a church separation would stay. Then there were others like, oh gosh, no, these are, hundreds of years old, it's historic preservation. So forms like this is when you have a lot of different things, and then people have done it quietly, and then those scores actually can help.
So did they do this, did they do these, like there was a presentation and then they sat down and did them independently and then?
Yeah, so they actually would use the whiteboards, and they'd have the different ones up there, and they would see who got the fives and whatever. I made this combination of a couple of different ones that I found.
Is the idea that we each do this ourselves to evaluate, or we do it as a group?
That's what
to
it
That would
evaluate?
have been for you guys to decide.
So let's say tonight, if we were to have used this tonight, would it have been easier to do it, like take 10 minutes after presentations and do it individually and then collectively compare? Or would you have wanted to?
I think if it's a contentious case, yes.
Yeah, and I think
Independently.
last year we were potentially coming up against, with, do we fund the land or whatever, and it was like, put it all to town meeting. Well, that's when you need to sit down and everybody does one for each one, and then you rank them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, so, I think if it works like this, because we're all in agreement, because we're having open discussion and we all are thinking with the,
Yeah.
collective brain, and and nobody's off, but.
And you don't have two people going after the same amount of money.
Right,
Yeah.
but when you have that, this is
That's
really
what-
important. And if it comes down to push comes to shove, you might have to maybe do it for all of them. But if you're in agreement on two, fine. But if it's down to two finalists and it's like which one's which, well, then maybe you need to do it. So it's good to have this, so we don't have to think of this process from scratch when
Right.
that
So I
presents
guess,
itself.
We've had this meeting tonight, we've gone through some dialogue, but take this back with you and look at it a little bit and think about it, because, it is something that we want to keep top
Yeah.
of mind, because it obviously would come in handy in certain situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it does give that, my admin head is always on. It's never about this moment.
Yeah,
It's this moment down here.
Mhm.
That's
Like,
what I-
not- Yeah.
That's what I always tell people.
It's
I'm like,
It's never about this moment.
it's about someone looking at this in
Yeah.
10 years.
And
Yeah.
saying, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Minutes
That's why,
need to
like,
be
I
written
had-
that way.
That's why I
Things
had
need to
Greg
be
just
filed
fill
that
shit
way.
out again for me, because I didn't want all the, like, we know what he's getting today.
Mhm.
But if someone found that old application without the revised,
Right.
I don't understand.
How could they have approved
Exactly.
this?
Yeah, so it's not about the now, it's about
Yeah.
the later.
It's a paper trail.
Yep.
Or-
Yeah,
or-
and if
or-
we hadn't had another presentation tonight, we could have done these at home between meetings.
Yeah, and
And-
you'll have to decide on how you'll want to do it. If you,
Yeah, I don't think this is a
Dan, I wonder
process
if
to
that's
do
how the
sitting in a
old one.
meeting.
what is that?
Especially if it's contentious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that, perfect.
Yeah.
And you know what, Tim, the other thing is, are we gonna do that flyer like we did last year
So this
too?
is going to be changed to.
I think so. Don't you?
Because I have that up right here.
Yeah.
Then 245.
Does it have to change much, or is it just, I wrote it up and Maureen helped me.
We'll just change the,
Amounts.
Oh, we had
It was like a
town
summary.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to change other than the dates and the projects and the amounts.
Yeah.
If you can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's good.
I have nothing to say on signs, I haven't done anything.
So this, these are the potential articles. So
You're writing that's the draft.
this is the draft of the warrant articles. So the first one is the housekeeping one, that we take 5% of what our anticipated revenue is for this coming cycle. And so because it's 40, whatever, it's 24,000 plus for the admin, 320 goes into budgeted reserve, 49 plus goes into each of the three categories. And so that's the article that we deal with first. And then we have 4 articles that are the warrant articles for the projects. So, the first one is the 30,000 from the open space.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yep, go ahead.
So this last line about funds to be expended by them in consultation with us,
Yep.
I know,
is that new? Because they don't usually come back and
right,
talk
I
to
don't
us.
remember.
We've left that in, we've had that in there all along.
Really?
Yeah. And,
I think it gives us the ability to say, we
yeah.
want
Right.
to consult.
right, you need to come in and explain what the hell's going on.
That's fine. I'm not
So-
saying take it out, I just,
Right.
I don't remember it.
So
that's all.
we've had it in here, but we haven't called anybody in and said, what's going on.
I did do a form saying, give me a status, because I needed it to report to the state.
Mhm.
So we've got some of the work done, meaning that we actually send out a letter of agreement that you're getting this money about to start to July 1st, blah, 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 so that part's done. And then late August, I have another form which the town accountant loved, that gives the status of the project.
Right.
And that's how we were able to find out about the announcements booth.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to come in, we're talking dates for
Right.
the next meeting.
Yeah, we continually refine our schedule and how
Yeah.
we want to lay out the year, because we keep
Right.
learning, so.
Yeah.
I think, that's what I think we've talked about, talking
Yeah.
about at our next
Yeah.
Yeah,
scheduled meeting.
I'm happy
I think that this, I think people can say, well, what does this mean? But I think that, you know, because after it's approved, you send out like an approval, which is what you were just saying. I think that, you know, defining this to them in that letter, if it's not already there, because I don't remember what it all said, is to say like, you know, we expect you to keep us abreast of what's going on.
Mhm.
That, to me, is what the in consultation means.
Right.
So it's like, it's like you should be telling us we shouldn't have to be chasing you. And if we have to chase you, we will, but.
Their form.
Well, it gives us the power to chase.
But I
a little
think, but if
easier.
somebody ever came and said, well, it
Call
said in
in.
consultation, it's like,
Yeah.
well, when we explain it to them, it's like,
Yeah.
we tell them to keep us up to date, and if they aren't, then we will reach out. So I
Yeah.
think that makes sense. Yeah.
We will make you come to a meeting.
So,
This punishment.
Be careful.
Yeah. Like in this year.
Can we call it back
The
ourselves?
letter's gonna have to be a little bit more strongly
Well, we could cancel
worded
it
as
there,
far as
that's
getting
fine.
copies of the invoices.
Yeah.
Ellie's group is terrific on that.
Well, that's June Miller.
That's
She's
June,
wonderful.
yeah. Others aren't as good, kind of thing, so. But we have our new stamp that says approved by CPA, so.
Can you send this to me by email?
Sure.
Thank you.
she'd like to, but she doesn't have
I
it.
was gonna ask him for it.
Sorry, thank you.
She'll get it. I
Thank you
mean,
for
I
indulging
created
me.
it this evening, so I thought, well, I'll take it to you guys as a draft and say, you know, this is what we want. So the language in the motion for each of these projects, I would think ought to be reviewed by, like Conservation ought to review that language and make sure it's what they want to have us say in the warrant article.
Okay.
Because they'll be
Defending it.
presenting it and defending it. So, okay, so
Uh-huh.
that's the notion.
What is our take any action relative there to supposed to mean? It
That's
sounds
just-
like it's a
it's
throwaway.
just-
Every
Standard,
single
right.
Yeah. All on
action,
there.
every single warrant item always ends in that.
It's been a while, so.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What?
The last.
Or take any action relative thereto? Like what?
Passover,
Pass over if you want to borrow money, if you want, you know, well, take some from this fund, some from that fund.
So it gives you wiggle room to modify.
it does
Yeah.
in general articles. In this one, I mean, you really don't,
Got
they
it.
don't have latitude with these the way they do in normal situations, so,
Yeah,
Right.
because this is not town money.
right?
Mm. Got it.
And then the second article is the 200 for the affordable housing issues, and I will chat with Lisa and get her to look at that language. And I'll ask them to write the summary, and we're going to ask Conservation to write the summary for the warrant.
So I changed one of your words.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Wow, all right.
Be careful or she'll change a second.
That's the goal, change them. But if Conservation wants to write the summary, then if they get it to us before we submit this to the Select Board, you know, by the 12th,
The
right?
12th this year, yeah.
At 5 o'clock?
Yes.
We'll include it. If they don't, we'll just leave this addendum that says that Conservation's going to supply it, okay?
Yep.
And then the next is the 200,000 for housing, so I'll ask Lisa to review that language. The next is not 245 now, it's 300. And I'll share this with Julie and say, Julie, do you want to chase these guys down and review this, make sure that everybody's happy because I would well, Rec could write the summary, but these guys may write it too, we'll see. That's up, but I'll chase Julie on that.
Would you put all of these summaries on the same page so that you'd have a handout at town meeting?
Don't the summaries go with it?
The
The
summaries
summary-
go in the warrant. That's what the select board wants now, every time, right? They want a summary of the article
An explanation.
in the warrant.
It's a waste of paper, but
But, right, I mean, they say to us, they chase us if we don't submit the
yeah,
summary.
probably.
And then they include it as part of the text in the warrant, so.
Yep.
And then the next one is the housing coordinator, and that's gonna be 20 instead of 10.
But do you have to say it's going to be expended over 2 years, or does that not make? Should you not do that because then you're voting something this year to be expended the following year?
I guess we'd let the summary explain that it's gonna be for an installment over the course of 2 years, but it's the commitment is being made at this time.
Out of FY '24.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fine.
And then the last one, I'll chase Kristen on, because if they're relocating, see, it was in the summary that specified where the pavilion was going to be located. So it doesn't seem like it's got anything to do with us. It's not a CPA article, it's an article from REC that says we want to modify what we said in the summary.
I know, and I wish there was a way to do it that isn't even an article.
Right.
But the
Yeah,
summary.
that just
Oh, that's interesting.
But see, it was the summary that said this pavilion would
So-
be sited near the tennis court and pond.
So this is so here's to Eloise's argument about why do you put the summary in, because now it's hamstrung you because you put
Yeah.
that down because you attach the summary to the article
Right.
instead of just handing it out as a handout. Just saying
Because if-
information.
Yeah,
'cause
but
it-
they
Right,
could
but-
put it in the article. It doesn't mean they have to put it in the motion. And
If it
what you
wasn't-
vote
Is
is
the
the
motion.
motion.
So if they voted the motion and it didn't include that, then why do they have to do this?
They don't.
So what they're doing is they're going back to town meeting with a request to
Because-
change the location because
The
they think it's just the transparent thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But they don't have
But
to.
they don't have to.
No, and I don't think we have to do
So
anything.
can I ask?
I don't
okay,
think we should do anything.
Can I just ask a question then? If they go back to town meeting
And
and
then
town
say no.
meeting says no, say too bad you voted it last time and we were
Right,
just
which-
being nice.
which is-
but we're doing it
Which
anyways.
is, which
I'm,
was.
I'm sorry,
Right,
but
which is my argument about why we shouldn't do anything about this first. Rec should have something on here that just says we're changing the location from, because people did vote based on the information.
I thought it was a good location.
Wha-
The first one.
The first one.
Yeah.
And, well, we can't see it from we can't see the school. Well, they're taking down the barn.
the school didn't like it encroaching on their area because they thought it would encourage people to play on their playground, cause a problem. That's what I've heard them say.
Which is taxpayer supported too?
Right, and the police didn't like
And the
it being
police
in the
didn't
way of sightlines to the school. I don't
But
know,
we have a building there? We have a barn there?
right.
Personally, I liked it in the other location
Only
better, but
be-
Right.
whatever.
Personally, I think it's more centrally located on the other side. Near the school, I mean, well, kind of still near the school, but near the playground, near the fields. I don't know.
But it's-
And here's the thing. It's up to, they're the ones who are working through this. I'm not gonna tell them they're doing it wrong.
No, it's up to
Well,
them.
someone at town meeting, I'm sure we'll
I'm
we'll
sure.
tell them they're doing it wrong.
But it's not me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But I don't think we should
No, and-
put the
and-
money
and-
on.
And,
Yeah.
no, the money wasn't, I didn't expect to do the money, but I did know, I mean, I just wanted to put this on so we'd have a discussion to make sure that we
Is that
felt
re-
comfortable
is
not
that-
doing anything with it.
Is that
Right.
really what you do? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just, to me, it's the question of is that really, is town meeting really the place to have to do? I mean, it's a transparent thing, but you could have a public
Oh, bless
hearing
you.
to talk about.
Right, but
You know.
it's out of our hands.
Okay, whatever.
Right.
Everybody, did everybody get a copy of that?
Be quiet.
Yeah.
The checklist?
Yeah.
Yep,
So everybody's-
several copies.
How many did you make?
I made 4, one for each
Each article.
Oh.
Right.
Each
Can we
application.
put them back in a drawer for the next time?
Absolutely, I'll
Okay.
collect everything that's on the table, actually.
Awesome.
I think you were a step late.
Because Greg
Mr.
gave you guys
Wheeler.
stuff that I don't have.
And I think Carolyn made a good point, is that if we do this, I think to me it makes sense that it's don't do it at the meeting, do it in advance yourselves, so you come with it. I think that makes sense.
That make sense to folks?
Yeah.
That way you're gonna sort of just reflect and
Yeah.
develop your own personal thoughts and not be
Yeah.
swayed by Carolyn, and it makes it a lot
When's
easier.
the meeting?
We were talking about the 6th,
That's
but
February,
do we need to meet on the 6th?
next week.
Did we already?
We
did all
voted,
this?
we're prepared to, we're going to consult with the different groups that we're writing the warrant articles for. I don't think, I mean.
I have an energy committee meeting.
Yeah.
on the 6th.
So, I mean, if we're comfortable with what we voted, and we're comfortable with asking the advocates to help us construct the language for the warrant article, then we don't need to meet before the warrant closes. That's why we had talked about the 6th.
Do we have to do a final vote on these then?
We
Or
voted
just-
tonight.
Oh,
We voted the dollars, and we voted.
we don't have to vote the language.
So when is the warrant closed?
We don't
when
have
does
to-
February
We
12th.
don't have to vote the
February 12th.
specific language. No.
It's always right around Valentine's Day.
No. Right, we don't
That's
have to
an
vote
easy way
the
to
specific
remember it,
language
right?
of the articles.
You know,
No, I
As
don't-
long-
love is in the air, love is in
Just
the air.
our
town meeting
responsibility is
in
to
the
vote
air.
the dollar amount.
You're getting carried away.
Right.
Time to go home,
Right.
tired.
And the scope of the project.
And the advocates really ought to be the ones that mold the language about how the
No, I
piece
think,
is going to be
I
expended.
think what's here is accurate. That's fine.
And, they may tweak it a little bit, but, so, unless people are really
But we-
feeling that we need to meet on the 6th, we can skip it.
Well, this last one, there's no reason
We're
we would
getting
have
rid
to
of it.
further. We're getting rid of it altogether.
We're not doing anything on the last one, right?
Correct.
That's up to them to do it.
That's rec.
We did it
And-
last year.
Right.
Now it's
We-
their
The
problem.
money is theirs, they still have it, it hasn't changed, they're not asking for more or less. That's everything that we're in control over. And the fact that there was a summary that said it was gonna be on a certain location wasn't part of what we were voting on necessarily.
Okay. Thank you.
I make a
Think of
motion
it
that we don't
20th?
meet on February 6th.
So would we meet then on
I think the
20th?
I think that's what we said, yeah.
February 20th? And at that time, we'll talk about our schedule for the
Which
year.
I think is the day after the 3-day weekend, so I'd like to put that out there.
Well, what's our next, what do we got going on?
We have to do,
After
we have to
this?
do
We
our
gotta-
I really do
plan.
have to do I've got to figure out the plan, and I got to see if we're going to try to get the coalition to come into train.
We haven't voted on the plan.
We haven't even voted on a hearing date.
We postponed the plan vote.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right, so we haven't voted on the plan. We've got to have a hearing.
Yeah.
Have to figure out the signs.
We
So
don't
the
have to
next
have a
meeting-
hearing for this. We have
No.
to have a hearing for the plan. So, if we were to meet,
I mean, it'll be Zoom.
yeah,
And the meeting dates is really what I want to try to just get kind of confirmed, so that I can then go to the coalition and see what we can get.
see if they come and train us.
Yeah, or if they can do, one of theirs was on Zoom.
And
And what else
trainable.
so we
Well,
don't
the
have to
oth-
take a vote to support this rec thing, so that's off the agenda now, right?
Mhm.
Yep,
That was gonna be on the agenda. Articles are done.
and
I can have the flyer done for you guys to approve.
We should
I'll try to do
vote
something
on this
with the
article tonight,
signs.
though.
I have to do something with
That's,
the
That's us.
that's also on my thing, yeah, follow up on the signs. So,
I want to try to just come up with I want to try to come up with some kind of a,
You'll make
what
a
do we
motion.
want on them?
Yeah.
And then we can sort of vote on an
Wait,
idea.
the boss.
Right.
so the next meeting is kind of a working meeting to see what the rest of your year looks like.
Right,
The
and-
rest of your fiscal year.
And we
looks like.
may want to modify the dates that we expect project proposals to come in. We've decided now that we're going to vote on the plan in the in between submitting warrant articles and going to town meeting, so we need to decide if that's still the way. So we're just trying to lay out our schedule for the year and the work we have.
When did we for anything that's outstanding? I know historical has some outstanding projects, right?
We do.
So just like updates, like,
Yeah, I mean, I could do,
mean-
those reports, the status reports, because, well, that's one of the, I'd like to just have you guys give me direction on when you want what
Done.
I think it'd be good to get status reports before town meeting on what's been going on with past stuff, because somebody could ask and say, what happened with blah, 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 blah.
So you and I can, when we meet, outline
Impersonating.
You did a
What my
great
questions
job.
are.
what a
Whoever we
revised
are, whoever you
yearly
are out
schedule
there.
might look like.
But I'm just imitating.
And then we can share that with everybody before the meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, so it's just kind of just talking about, the way the year works, I think this year went really good, what's my new plan? It's like it's too much kind of thing.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then it's a lull, so it's better.
There's no such thing as a lull in
Well-
municipal work.
It's better spread out.
It just, right, it ebbs and flows and,
And then it just starts over again.
yeah.
So we've got 4 warrant articles,
Yep.
and we want to have a motion to place these on the warrant by giving them to the select board. So you want to make a motion that says that? As
modified by each
by the potential
Proponent.
So
proponents.
moved.
Second.
She beat you.
She did beat me.
She's smooth. She's subtle. Stealth.
She's got lots of experience.
Stealth.
It's called experience.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been at it a long time.
Stealth. I love it.
Oh.
And do we have any discussion?
Second, no.
And no discussion? And all those in favor of placing these 5 warrant
4.
articles?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, you
What's
crossed
5?
the last one.
The budget.
Oh,
is
the first one's the
one.
budget.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yes.
4 projects and a budget. 5 warrant articles on the warrant. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one? Good. Unanimous? Thanks. Any other business? We've chosen a date to meet again.
Well, so,
What time?
but not February 2nd.
No.
And
the
February
6th,
6th.
The 20th,
Right.
At 7:30?
on Zoom. 7:30.
February.
Zoom it. And we'll confer and send out an agenda and some other little materials beforehand, but this was good. I was pleased. They came in and did what they needed to do.
They did.
So that was, makes life a
It's
lot
very,
easier.
very different from their first
Yep,
presentation.
yep,
Yes.
no.
Yep.
That was huge.
But that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what we're,
But I think it's good for us to take away too, like, they didn't even understand what our role was.
right.
Mm-hmm,
So,
yeah, so
I
that's.
mean, how they got to that point without understanding.
I think you
that's-
guys as a committee did a really good job.
So,
You always say that.
No, well, for this last year you were first graders, this year you're second.
Oh.
Oh, I see. I see. We're still getting graham crackers and milk.
We have so much appreciation.
Every year you're
I do
getting
need
an
a nap.
A.
We have so much appreciation for our teacher. Right, yeah.
You're doing great, great work.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
It's non-debatable, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.